Call the meeting to order. Those who care to, please stand for an opening prayer and pledge of allegiance. Ms. Brenda, if you would, please.
Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we just come to you tonight and thank you for the day that you've given us, Lord, and we just thank you so much for the rain that you gave to us today. Lord, be with the meeting tonight and be with each one of our council members. Lord, give us a safe journey home. In his name I pray, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving on to citizen participation. Anyone who would like to speak to anything not on the agenda, please step to the podium, state your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak to anything not on the agenda? Seeing none, citizen participation is closed. I have a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. On the board's commission committee schedule of note, city council meeting. The next one will be July 17th. Tonight we are taking up the July 3rd meeting because of the holiday. So the next one will be July 17th, followed by August 7th, the city council meeting. Excuse me. Moving on to old business and tabled items, I need a motion and a second for the second reading of bill number 18-29.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries 7-0. Ms. Brenda.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, amending Title I of the Republic Municipal Code by repealing Article 1, Capital Improvements Committee of Section 125, Boards, Commissions, and Committees.
Thank you. Do I have a motion and a second for final passage of bill number 18-29?
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions for Mr. Keeling before we move on to a roll call vote? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilmember Franklin?
Aye.
Councilmember Duran?
Aye.
Councilmember Russell?
Aye.
Councilmember Dykeman?
Aye.
Councilmember Brashears?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson?
Aye.
Councilmember Self?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Moving on to bill number 18-30. Do I have a motion and a second for the second reading?
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries 7-0. Ms. Brenda.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, approving amending the zoning code and official map by changing the classification of approximately 61.6 acres from agricultural AG to general commercial C2, owned by Mountain Farms, a Missouri general partnership, and located at 3456 South Farm Road 101.
Thank you. Have a motion and a second for final passage of bill number 18-30.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. We have Mr. Tyson here. Do we have any questions for Mr. Tyson regarding this zoning issue before we move on to a roll call vote? Mr. Wilson.
Hesitate to have a question, but I do. Okay, the person submitting this. No question.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilmember Self?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson?
Aye.
Councilmember Brashears?
Aye.
Councilmember Dykeman?
Aye.
Councilmember Russell?
Aye.
Councilmember Duran?
Aye.
Councilmember Franklin?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. This time I'd ask for a motion and a second for the second reading of bill number 18-31.
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Ms. Brenda.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, approving amending the zoning code and official map by changing the classification of approximately 48.5 acres from agricultural AG to high-density, single-family residential R1H, owned by Turner Residential Holding LLC and located at 7012 West Farm Road 170.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to second for final passage of bill number 18-31?
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion to second. I understand that with the questions that council had, we have a presentation from Mr. Tyson, correct?
That's correct.
To answer those questions, so I'm going to move seats. He's got it.
Can you turn that on?
Sit down.
Randy, can you handle that cable?
While this is warming up, what we've done here is in response to some of the questions that were asked at the last council meeting, I've put together some illustrations of the intersection or the intersections really that were subject to those questions. And so as I'm going through this, if you have any questions or if you want me to clarify anything, please don't hesitate to ask. But with regard to this rezone, what we've got here is, make sure this thing works. This is the intersection. It's actually three separate intersections. This is Farm Road 170. The development is located to the west of this location, probably 1/8 to 1/4 of a mile west of right here. This is the intersection of Farm Road 170 and Farm Road 101. This is Republic Road and Farm Road 101, and this is Republic Road and Farm Road 170. I believe this is the location that council wanted us to look more closely into as you know, how this potential rezone may affect what is somewhat known to be a potentially dangerous intersection. So we did evaluate all of these. I had some crash statistics produced. Since 2013, we have had 0 crashes here, 5 crashes here, and 4 crashes here.
Since when?
2013.
Okay.
So these crashes here, I was able to review all of the crash reports for those. There were 2 injury crashes of the 5 that I mentioned, and they were all of the crashes, but particularly the injury crashes, were nearly the same. What you have here are vehicles traveling southbound on Farm Road 101. They get to here and they stop at this stop sign. All the drivers said, I looked both directions, didn't see anybody, so they pulled out into Republic Road right here. A car traveling this way at a higher speed. The speed limit here is 55 miles per hour. They said they're coming along here, and they see a car pull out in front of them. They didn't have enough time to stop. They slammed on their brakes, still couldn't stop, and 2 vehicles crashed right here. And both of them were in the driver's side front of the vehicle. So what that tells us about this particular intersection, about those crashes, is what we're looking at here is just the fact that there are some crashes doesn't necessarily mean what we're dealing here with is some sort of traffic hazard. Crashes happen for a lot of different reasons, so we're trying to develop why are these crashes happening and is it related to the intersection itself. So what we learned from this study here is that there is a hazard here. There is not enough sight distance at that speed of 55 miles per hour. You need well in excess of 300 feet of sight distance, and here you only have 250 feet of sight distance. So these vehicles cannot see these vehicles as they approach from this direction. So they pull out believing that it's clear, and the 2 vehicles crash right there. So what that tells you is even a responsible driver is at potentially some risk if they are this vehicle traveling south right here. So the question of how does this development potentially impact that, I think you can't say that there's no impact. So if you look at this next slide, here's sort of the network of transportation that we're dealing with here. Here's that problematic intersection right here. Here's the potential development right here. what we're looking at is the trips generated from this new development, what's the likelihood that they produce a greater risk right here. So what you'd be talking about are vehicles using this as some sort of cut through to get to this development. I think that would be a relatively small number of potential trips for this particular development. This, I think, is probably the more well-traveled route right here, and this will soon be an improved intersection with a roundabout here at 103 and Retmo Drive. So you've got vehicles that can approach this way and from this way. I wouldn't tell you there would be no vehicles that may encounter that, but that doesn't mean they're going to crash. Like I said, I think it's a relatively small impact that this potential development has, and really the point here is that it's a hazard that exists regardless of this development. It's got to be addressed, and that's something we certainly learned from this review. One thing that we will be initiating, like I said, regardless of what happens with this particular rezone, is the potential closure of Farm Road 101 just south of the Old Stone apartment development here to prevent any of this situation moving forward. They're building 3 new buildings and will be facilitating a new access point right here. This development here will actually have a much greater impact on the potential safety issue here than anything that would come from this potential development right here. So it's something that we've got to look into regardless. Another potential thing is doing some clearing right here to improve that sight distance so that people can see each other as they approach it. But of course, if we are successful in working with Greene County to close this obviously we would probably still look into doing this just to improve sight distance, period. But this would be sort of a plan B type of option there. This intersection here of Republic Road and 170, we do know that there were some crashes since 2013. There were 4. One of them was an injury. I have not yet had the opportunity to review those reports in detail like I have for the other intersection. But potential near-term solutions here would be the possibility of, if we determined that there was actually something that warranted us to do this. I don't want to put any of this out there saying the city's going to go out there and do this immediately. We'd want to look into this further and determine exactly what may be warranted. We don't want to just go start putting stuff out in the middle of the road unless we're absolutely certain. But some delineation using plastic ducts right here to force drivers away from a potentially dangerous movement where they would be at a high speed and just cutting across that opposing lane of traffic without any slowing or stopping. It would be much more desirable if we could have a calming effect by use of those ducts to force them a little bit further along into a slower turning movement, make them more aware of their surroundings, and give them more time to watch for traffic coming from this direction. If it's the opposite and we need more time to merge and accelerate because of traffic coming it this way, there's the potential to add some pavement here to give more acceleration lane and opportunity for appropriate merge right here at these. So both of those could be accomplished in the near term if they are warranted. So just to back up here to this here. So what we're looking at is, what we don't want to do is put a bunch of money into this. This is all going to eventually be reconfigured in the long term. I say the long term, I don't mean, dozens of years from now, but certainly it would be years in the future. This would be a substantial cost to do it the way that ultimately will be done in the future, and those funds probably won't become available for some time. Ultimately, ZZ here will be extended all the way to 60 and eventually become one single north-south corridor with MM, and this will at that time be all reconfigured to be a lot safer and potentially eliminate all of these problems moving forward. But like I said, that won't happen for years. So in the near term, what we've done here is come up with what we believe are some viable solutions to address this issue. So all that being said, I'd be happy to answer any questions or provide any clarifications on that that council may have.
Any questions from council?
Thank you for your work on it.
You're welcome.
I have one question, Garrett.
Yes.
A lot of what we heard from at least the citizens that came in, I understand we're not taking up an application for a medium density, but that was what kept getting brought up. Can you tell me the impact or the difference in impact that high density versus the medium density would have in traffic? Is it negligible?
Yeah, it's, at this scale of 50 acres, I wouldn't say negligible or insignificant, but it would be small.
Okay.
We're talking about, at most, a potential for maybe 40 additional dwelling units, and so at that point, you're getting into the dozens of additional trips per day, but in the larger scheme of that whole corridor, that's just a drop in the bucket of total trips generated and traffic volumes. So from that standpoint, it's, it's very little.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from council? Thank you for all of the work you did on this to answer the questions that everybody had.
You're welcome.
Seeing no questions, we'll go to a roll call vote.
Councilmember Franklin?
Aye.
Councilmember Duran?
Aye.
Councilmember Russell?
Aye.
Councilmember Dykeman?
Aye.
Councilmember Brashears?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson?
Aye.
Councilmember Self?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Excuse me. Would somebody mind hitting the lights, please? First try. Okay, moving on to bill number 18-32. Do I have a motion and a second for the second reading?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Ms. Brenda.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri to establish a procedure for disclosing potential conflicts of interest and substantial interest for certain officials.
Thank you. Do I have a motion and a second for final passage of bill number 18-32?
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions for Mr. Ison before we move on to a roll call vote? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilmember Self?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson?
Aye.
Councilmember Brashears?
Aye.
Councilmember Dykeman?
Aye.
Councilmember Russell?
Aye.
Councilmember Duran? Councilmember Franklin?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0, and that is the end of a short agenda. We have no new business, no resolutions, and we will move on to reports from staff. Welcome, Mr. Keelan.
Thank you, sir. Bill number 1829 essentially brought to an end the Capital Improvements Committee, but I do want to take a minute to thank, obviously, Councilmember Dykeman and Councilmember Wilson, but there were 3 long-standing members on that committee. I don't even know how long, but they were long. And I want to thank them personally. It's Mr. Alan Craig, Mr. Denny Robbins, and Mrs. Bonnie Williams. They did an outstanding job on that committee. We would welcome their involvement on any committee or commission in the future, so just want to publicly thank them. Senate Bill 773, just wanted to update the group on that. Obviously, that's the bill that extends the collection on out-of-state vehicle sales. We're anticipating the governor's signature. It hasn't come yet. That would be a definite win for us. I think the annual amount for us is around $60,000 or $70,000, but hopefully that will happen soon. There was a pretty major decision last week by the Supreme Court on the sales tax for online retailers. That's at the state level right now. We do not have a use tax in place. As of right now, under current law, we would have to have a use tax in place to gain additional revenue out of that. But hopefully the state will act in some manner one way or the other, and we might not have to go forward with our own use tax election. But the ruling last week was, I think, was Wayfair correct, was significant. So trench rescue class, I may let Andrew or Dwayne speak to this, but that was held today and yesterday. Every member of Public Works and Fire Department were there, is that correct?
We had 30 staff members. The class capped out at 30, so we had a record.
Can you just give a brief overview of what exactly that was? Because it is good stuff. It's been a while since we were able to do it, so.
So on our Facebook page, and thanks to Mr. Landis, there'll be some more come out on it later. Some good pictures on there, there'll be some good videos show up later. What we're looking at, or what we did, is we had the University of Missouri Fire and Rescue Training come down, and they have a course that they put on. Last time we had this was in 2004, and after we had it in 2004, it's 30, 45 days later, we actually had the event occur, and we had to rescue a gentleman out of the trench, and we saved him. And so we got a lot of new people, fire department, a lot of new people in Public Works in several years since we had it. But the class is basically to teach our staff how to properly shore and rescue and dig somebody out without them becoming part of the incident. These trench rescues are a low frequency event. Trench claps don't happen that often if everything's done correctly, but when they do happen, it's all hands on deck, and it's way more than we can handle, and that's why we have to rely on Andrew's staff, because I need a backhoe operator, I need people cutting lumber, so forth and so on. So a hot day today. I think everybody's well tanned, so good training. Check out our Facebook page.
Thank you.
And I'll add that, you know, almost routinely, and I would almost even venture to say daily, that our water staff are in a trench of some kind, so it's greatly needed. I appreciate Glenn's help on getting that done.
Yeah. Good stuff.
As a reminder, Friday's 22nd annual Hard to Believe Have a Laugh celebration, J.R. Martin Park. That starts at 6. Fireworks at 10. Really looking forward to it. It will be a little bit warm, I think, early, but historically speaking, over the last 2 or 3 years, we've attracted a monster crowd. There are a lot of people to thank, and city staff are amongst those, obviously, but we have a lot of local and regional support for this event, and it means a lot to us. And I know that event means a lot to the community, so we're looking forward to it. It's going to be a good one, I think. So, the last thing I want to cover as part of the admin report tonight, and we'll have to hit the lights one more time. Sorry, Andrew. It's just a brief summary of the citizen survey. Our 2008 Republic Citizen Survey. We got the results last week from Opinion Research Specialists. Those were shared in a little bit of review fashion today with our leadership team. I'll attempt to go over, just hit the highlights, and obviously some of our leadership team can fill in stuff I may have missed. Just so you all are aware, we were doing this on a fairly routine basis from 2003 to 2010. 2010 was the last survey we conducted, and then obviously it's been 8 years since we conducted this one. It went out to residents in April. They were asked to return them by mid-May. From there, he's been putting together the data and presented to the ELT today. So I just want to go through this. This is a summary. What I sent to you earlier, I guess it was late last week, was the full-blown, all-out survey results. Brenda, we're going to have to scroll down here for me, man. Okay, so a total of 3,000 surveys were actually mailed to random households within Republic. In addition to that, we of course made it available online, put it out there via social media on the city website. We got a really good response, 1,065 responses. The response rate right at 37%. If it helps you any, in 2010 we got a response rate around 32. So Mr. Ellickson reported this morning that's a very good response rate for a city survey. So of which, though, 570 were via mail, 495 were online. That's very telling, especially when we get to a little more data here in a little bit. If we go to the next one there. I don't want to spend a lot of time here. This is just broad demographics here, but the data on the bottom is very important. This doesn't allow for skewing, so what we had via age demographics was a very good turnout amongst everyone. So you'll see all of those are relatively strong, almost evenly dispersed, but with a little bit of a tick up there from 45 to 64-year-olds. Less than 5 years of residency, that's what Mr. Ellickson pointed out this morning. I did go back to 10 data, though, and that was pretty right on with what was happening in 10. Evenly dispersed throughout, though. The 29% for less than 5 years, I think, stacked up almost exactly with what we had in 2010. So a lot of new residents to our area, a lot of new residents to our community, which is a good thing. Okay, so the actual results, I did want to pull give you a few benchmarks here compared to the 2010 survey, but obviously very, very overall positive stuff here, which is good. The overall quality of life in 2010 rated at an 86%. You'll see there it's at a 91. Place to raise children in 2010 was at 90%, so an uptick there. Public schools was at 80%, so an uptick of 3% there. And overall appearance was at 66%. The same two on the lower end of the spectrum were the same two in 2010. Water sewer costs, which we're all aware of the concerns there, and a Republic as a place to work. You can feel free to stop me anytime as we're going through this. Go ahead, man. City characteristics. Pretty telling information here, which is good. Overall image reputation, That's 67% in 2010. So we jumped 10 points over 8 years, which is good. Walking trails, exactly the same. Overall quality of businesses, 58%, uptick there of 8%, which is good. These next two are about status quo. There were 36% compared to 40 in availability, diversity of places to eat out, and then 29% availability of diversity of places to shop. What that tells you is people still want places to eat out and they still want places to shop, and I think we're all aware of that. The last one, recreational entertainment opportunities. I do want to clarify here, of course, Parks and Rec, which I am, but those are mainly what movie theaters, bowling alleys, places to eat at, and those, I'm not just saying that, those actually come out in the survey results as what they were referring to. So. Desirability of Republic as a place to live. What they were asked to rate was, it is more desirable, about the same, or less desirable than 5 years ago. This was awesome. So this number was at 46% in 2010. And the average over our 2003 to 2010, total average was 50.5. So that's an 11-point tick over the average and a 15% uptick over 2010. So there's a lot of contributing factors to that, but that is a significant jump and a positive jump at that too. We didn't ask that bottom question in 2010. It is cool data to look at. Just about half of our citizenry travel to Springfield daily. And even further, I guess that's 90% go there once a week. Neighborhood problems, if I put up the 10 side by side, these would almost mirror. So there is nothing wildly swinging one way or the other. And according to Mark, you're going to see the same 4 in almost every single citizen survey there is out there as far as the top. Speeding, weed loss, noisy animals, stray animals. So I don't want to just quickly go over this slide, but and we're going to put it out, or trend data on our website, but those are almost exactly the same things that were occurred in 2010, or noted in 2010. I didn't have comparative data here, but I think this speaks obviously to the quality of law enforcement and just as our community as a whole. People feel safe here, which is awesome. The walking alone at night, I can't remember exactly what he said this morning, but that is commonly, those numbers are pretty common, and I can't remember the reason. Does anybody remember that from this morning? There was something to do with certain areas. I can't remember what it was, but
he just clarified that females and folks in the lower income ranges of respondents,
okay,
primarily the respondents that said they did not feel safe walking alone at night.
sure. And Mark did say though that 93% number and the 73% number are very good when compared regionally. This was a number. This is another wow slide for us this morning, which is good. Republic City Government. In 2010, that services efficiently number was at 63%. So that's a 14% gain. That's significant. Responsive to citizens, 2010 it was at 60. Managing growth and development, 2010 it was at 50. And working through critical issues in 2010 it was at 45%. So those are double-digit gains for what they're worth over 2010, which I think speaks to everyone as part of our city leadership, elected officials.
And the fact that even 32% of that was just
that's
neutral.
Right. That's right.
It was neutral.
That's right. So significant gains there. A lot of people to be applauded for their efforts. This is something, and I know Mike was paying a lot of attention to this morning. This shocked me a little bit that that's still led, and he did break it down by demographics. It is the older demographic that still pays a lot of attention to utility billing inserts. But in 2010, which I couldn't remember, but I should have, we actually didn't even have social media and city website on there. So that tells you how much those have grown. Maybe we did have them on there and they were less than 5%. I can't remember. But the utility bill inserts was a little bit of a shocker to me. So we've still got to invest time and resources into that to make them everything they should be. Social media, and I only look for that to go up with the addition to Mr. Landis. Website included. Mr. Landis is already making some improvements in that area. But pretty telling information as far as where people still are getting their information. I think we even were leaning towards, not too long ago, doing away with the citizen newsletter in the utility bill, and that probably would prove to be an error at this point. So satisfaction with Republic City Services. I didn't put any benchmark data here, but overall, this is just kind of goes down through departments and then gets into some specifics there, especially in the bottom. We kind of laughed this morning, but snow removal is an issue in most cities around. And his joke this morning was, glad we didn't do it in winter, right? But we don't want to dismiss it. We obviously can improve in every area, and Andrew's, I'm sure, all over that. But the overall satisfaction level, if you take the mean of all that, we're hitting at about 75, 80%, and I think those are very good and positive numbers. This is just one particular to a question we wanted in there in the Parks and Recreation Department. He has this broken down in your detail by demographic, age demographic as well. The reason that's in there for there is we're getting ready where we are in the process of our master plan, but we want to know, we think we know what people want, but we wanted to hear it from them personally. These were demographics swayed quite a bit, but overall, and we kind of thought this would be the case, trails appeal to everyone, every demographic. Community center, aquatic center expansion, the younger demographics rated those very, very high, and then new athletic complexes, really, well, across the board, the younger demographic wanted them too, but as you can imagine, those without children in their household wasn't that interested in them. So this was some pretty telling data for us. We're going to follow up with that additional questions in our master plan survey, but good stuff there. I think I did have benchmark data here for this, which was another really good positive act. No, actually, unfortunately, I do not. But oh no, this is just general contact with a city employee. The impressions, courteous, friendly. I don't have the benchmark data, unfortunately, but overall, very positive ratings. To think that 67% of our population, of essentially 17,000, has interacted with a city employee within the last year is first of all impressive, but to go a step further and know that 88% of those thought that was a very positive thing, I think speaks highly to our staff, which I'm very, very happy with. What residents like most about living in Republic? These, once again, were almost identical to 2010. Physical environment, geographic location. We spent some time talking about this morning. Garrett, what's the number you gave? We were from the work centers in Springfield, 22 minutes, somewhere in there? 23 minutes. And I know we're going to possibly do a work session on this in the future, but we really got to watch that number. I think what you quoted is if it gets towards 30, you reach a tipping point, right? So, in a way, we are in competition with the Nixes and the Ozarks, and we got to really be careful with that corridor there. But physical environment, geographic location, proximity to those work centers in Springfield, social atmosphere, people, the talking point was there, and even back then, it's still got a small town feel, which I think we all love. I think it's good. Quality of life, which we referenced earlier, and back to the safety component, people feel safe here. Schools, very high rating too. I think it was 86% if I remember right, and that was trending exactly the way it was in 2010. So that top one goes back to the movie theaters, the bowling alleys, the places to eat out. They want to see more and more and more. I think we're gaining in that area, but people are hungry. They probably cut down on those trips to Springfield, I would imagine, right? They don't want to go once a day or once a week. They want to see more here. I think that's it for there. That's all I have. I'd be happy to entertain any questions. This information is valuable stuff to us, though. I know Mike's planning to put it out publicly tomorrow. If you haven't got a chance to digest the comments are awesome too. There's a lot of stuff in there. Just on the Parks and Rec side, I know we're going to get a lot of ideas, but in general, the comments of how people generally feel about this city in there was very little negative. And sometimes in surveys there's an opportunity to unload. So overall, I think those are very positive ratings for our city. And I think we're going to get back in the, well, I know we are. I know we're going to get back in the, at least every other year, try to do this every other year so we can have some trend data going forward. So that's it.
All right, thank you very much. I don't have much other than the public service announcement was great that the fire department did with Mike Landis. Was that Jeff King?
Yes.
Okay. He did a good job, and I think it was good. We noticed a lot of comments on that. So, thank you, Mike.
He did a good job. You put it all together. So.
Well, it was good. It was good. The other thing is just in the survey, it is amazing to see how many people had contact with a city employee or someone from the city, and the overwhelming high number. So what we already knew, you know, how well our city employees do. Now the public sees that too, and they made that pretty clear in this survey. So I will move on to council reports. Oh, other than this Friday, again, have a blast. Everybody please come out to have a blast and have fun. Mr. Franklin.
It's been a short week since our last meeting, but I really appreciate the trench rescue. That's something that in my line of work used to be a lot of infrastructure, and that's something that's very scary when you're 15 feet below ground in this area with the ground the way it is and unstable with water flow and everything else. It's a very scary situation. And I remember when a guy got caught in the trench. That's very, very scary. At the time, I was doing a lot of ditch work, and that's a very scary place to be. So thank you very much for brushing up and working hard on that. Have a blast. Very excited about that. I've heard a lot from all the people I talked to. There's a lot of people coming, so very, very excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. The citizen survey, thank you to all the citizens that turned that in. That's truly very helpful to put a lot of different things into perspective. But that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. N.
Thank you very much for all of that information about that subdivision and how that's all gonna be affected. I really, really appreciate that. The survey was awesome. That was really exciting to see that where we're trending and how people view our city that we just absolutely adore. And I can't wait for Have a Blast, and we look forward to it every year. So, looking forward to that.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Russell.
You know, you just really cannot say enough about the citizen survey. First of all, getting that many respondents. I mean, that's
Impressive.
really cool. That's a great return rate on, what was it, 34%? Is that?
Yep.
And that's just unheard of, I would think, in these surveys. So that was really great that everybody's buying in. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dyke.
Well, of course, you know, with the survey, and kind of like Jared had said, you know, a lot of times with a survey like this, it's time for people to unload on you because, number one, they're not standing there looking at you. They can fill it out. And so, you know, it's very positive. And I think it's, you know, with the training, the trench rescue, that's, you know, I've seen that where I moved from Northwest Arkansas. They had lots of that happening, and I've never been in that situation, don't know that I want to be, but at least we know we got people trained that can take care of it.
Absolutely. Mr. Shears.
I'd like to thank Mike Landis for the video on fireworks safety. That was, needless to say, class 1, professional, we knew it would be. Used to be a guy on KY3 that would do almost that good of a job. But, thank you, Mike.
Mr. Wilson.
I can't top that. But I'm looking forward to having a blast, and I want to thank Garrett and his crew for the work they did on that 48 acres. It was information that needed to be put out there.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Self.
I've got nothing. Have a blast, I guess, Friday. Actually, Thursday, Island Green is doing a grand opening, and they're having a ribbon cutting. I believe it's at noon, so if you can make it, anybody listening, if you can make it. They had a event there a couple weekends ago. I think it was Sean Monday. Gosh, I hope that's his first name. But anyways, Mr. Monday had he performed out there, and it was a really nice event, and there was well attended, so it's good to see kind of that revitalization there of Island Green. So, yeah, Thursday's that, and then Friday, have a blast. So.
All right. With nothing else, I'll take a motion in a second to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. We are adjourned. Thank you.
So there's a spot. Yeah, it's.
Oh, I got that.